What if you had your very own ElevenLabs powered AI agent that was able to take incoming calls, that knew everything about your business, the latest updates to documents, and could chat to any of the customers coming into the business to answer those common FAQs? In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how we can do that with an ElevenLabs and Superbase powered AI agent. But first, let's jump into a quick demo to see exactly how it works. So as we can see in the background here, we're going to be storing all of our data in Supabase for our database, as well as the RAG, which we're going to be getting the information back from. And we're going to be using some webhooks with ElevenLabs to be able to provide that response. So we're going to give it a quick test now. And what you'll be able to see is that it's not able to answer the question that we specifically give it, because it's not got any of the information in the database at the moment. So we're going to come through and make a call.
Hi, thanks for calling. How can I help you with your real estate question today?
Hi there, when was the company founded?
Let me find that information for you right away. I'm sorry, but I don't have specific information about.
So there we go. As we can see, it's not able to understand that. What we can do though is come across to Google Drive. And the reason for this is I'll explain it a bit later on in the video, but we'll upload our document here. And as you can see, once it's added, because it's that text-based document, we can go through and make some changes in the future if we wanted to. If we come back across, what we can do is execute this process. It's going to capture this new file that we've added in, add all of this data into our database here. If I just refresh this, and it's nice and easy to set this up. And the reason that this is key is because it's also got that file ID for us to reference later on, delete and update records as well. If we come back across, what we now got is the data ready to go. So if I redo that phone call, we should be able to access that information. So we'll trigger our workflow. We'll give that phone number a ring again.
Hi, thanks for calling. How can I help you with your real estate question today?
Hi there, when was the company founded?
Let me find that information for you right away. Thank you for your patience. Hamptons was founded in 1869. That's over 150 years of experience.
So there we go. As we can see, it's now got access to that data to be able to provide those responses back as you need, and it's incredibly quick for that response as well. And this is just one of the many different ways that you can deploy this sort of technology with voice AI agents. If this sounds interesting, make sure to stay tuned for the video. And if you want to get access to the resources here, come across to our community, into the classroom here. We've got lots of different content. Come down to the voice AI module here. And then what you'll find under our ElevenLabs section is we've got one here, which is all around the AI receptionist that can answer customer questions. We've got all the instructions down here, but what you'll need to do, download the blueprint here, come across to a new environment, just do the 3 dots, import from file, and then import that blueprint we just downloaded, and it's going to be all set up for you automatically in n8n. We'll just need to make some changes in ElevenLabs, as well as the API keys that you currently sit in here as well. So let's jump straight into it. As mentioned, we're going to be building it from scratch, so we're going to get rid of all of these. Now, first things first is we need to store that data in Superbase. So what we're going to be doing, well, first of all, as mentioned, we're going to have the 2 options to get the data. So we're going to have option 1 and option 2 here. What we're doing with this version is every time a file gets uploaded, we're going to make sure we add it to the database. But what we also need to make sure, which is really key for RAG, is we're always pulling through that latest information. So if any changes are made, we need to be able to pull that back into our database so that we can use it for the AI agent. Now, the way we're doing this is we're going to make sure that we get the doc ID from our Google Drives. And as I showed you a bit earlier, that will be stored in our metadata within Superbase. What we're then going to do is delete any existing rows, because then what it enables us to do is make sure that we're pulling through that latest information if we've made any changes. What we're also going to do here is just convert the file So we're going to make sure, for example, if we've got it in PDF, we're going to put it into this text file here so it's nice and easy to ingest that data. We're then going to be using Supabase, which is a great vector store, which is basically going to enable us to store lots and lots of data. It's very cost effective. And if you wanted to put a nice front end on it, like lovable.dev, you'd be able to do that as well as maybe more of a SaaS offering. So let's get into building this part. So as mentioned, we're going to need to make sure that we've got our triggers. So in this case, we'll do Google and then Drive. We've got the two different options. So we've got on changes to a specific file. So that would be where we can update it. Or we've got the one where a specific folder. And this is going to be if we've added a file in there. So if I come back across, we're going to do on changes to a specific folder just for this demo. We're going to need to add in our credentials here, which make sure to go through and do this. I'll include the link below to this video here, this documentation, which makes it nice and easy to be able to set up your Google authentication service to use it in the work through today. We're going to come out of here though. We're going to check it every minute, but you could do it every day, hour, whatever you preferred. I've called it our RAG knowledge. So what we're going to do is delete the folder in here. We're going to come back across and then we'll search for RAG in here. And it should find our folder both for the master one, i.e. the overall folder, as well as the subfolder of RAG knowledge. What we're looking for is when a file is created, because as mentioned, if it's going to be uploaded, it's creating a new file in Google Drive. So now what we can do is fetch test step. We'll see nothing comes back. If I come through and upload the example document that we had, which is just a welcome onboarding document maybe for a new analyst. Again, if you've got any FAQs, you could upload that in here. And we're going to be able to come back across and then trigger that workflow. And as we can see here, it's captured all of that data. So now what we can do is pull this down. We're then going to do a set node in here because we need that ID. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see lots and lots of data that we can use. And what we want to do is come down to where we've got the ID, which is a bit further towards the bottom, and pull that across. Now, if we execute the step, as we can see, we've only got one ID now, which makes it nice and easy for later on. What we'll do next is Superbase. I'll include the link below so you can find it nice and easily. As we can see here, one of the great reasons I'm also using this is because we can integrate Postgres as well. So if this was maybe more of a personal assistant, you'd be able to go through and it would have that chat history remembered to have those conversations over a longer period of time. It's also really cost effective. So if we come across here, we're going to be using the free version today. But if you wanted to upgrade to that pro, you can do as well. But for many of you starting off, that free version will be absolutely fine to use. Make sure to come into your dashboard once you've signed up, and then you need to create a new organization. We've got our YouTube demos here, and then we'll need to do a new project. So we'll come into here. We're going to give it a project name. So we're going to do YT demo, and then ElevenLabs RAG agent. We'll copy this. We're going to need to give it a strong password as well. And then you can choose the different regions to host it. I'm going to put it in London just because that's nice and easy for me. You can go through and change some of the configurations. We're not going to touch on that now. We'll do that a little bit later on, or maybe in a more advanced videos. Once we're all logged in, we're going to need to set up our database. The easiest way to do this is if you come across to the SQL editor. I'll include the link in the community so you can find it nice and easily. It'll take you through to the documentation on Superbase, which is all around how you set it up. So it's going to have the structure that we need for later on. So if I come back across to our Superbase account, paste the command in here and run, it's now going to go through and set up our tables for us. So if we come back across, we've now got the document here to be able to store it and use it as we. So now we've got it all set up, we're going to need to come across to our project settings, and then we're going to come down to data API. You'll see that you've got a unique project URL here. You want to copy this, come back across to n8n, and then you want to search for super and then base. We're then going to be looking for delete a row, and we're going to need to add our account in here. So you want to paste your new table ID in there, and we'll just rename this to YT demo. To find the secret service role key, come back across to Supabase. You want to come down to where they've got API keys. You see the reveal key here. We'll be able to copy this, come back across, and paste into here. We can do save, and now it's going to go green if it's all connected successfully. We'll also be able to choose our table ID, which is going to be document here. We're going to need to go down and make sure that we actually can filter on that one that we want. And in this case, we're going to be doing it by the string here. We're going to need to add our filter in here, which is nice and easy, because what it is if I just add it in here, is we're looking in the metadata column that we've got in our database. So if I come back up here, the metadata that we've got in here, what we're looking for is, does that file ID exist? So if I switch back to our other one in here and come down to the table editor, if we just open up one of these examples, as you can see, we've got the file ID as a field in there. So we're checking, does that already exist? Yes or no? If it does exist, we're going to delete it. If it doesn't, that's fine. We'll go through and add it as a new field. That way we've always got the latest data available. We'll come back down to our demo one here and come back across. So now what we're going to do is check, does it match any of these IDs here? Do they match? If so, okay, we've got something we need to delete and update. If not, that's fine, we'll add it in. We're going to do execute step here, and what it should find is nothing exists in there at the moment, so we'll be able to go through and set it up from scratch. So as we can see there, it's got an empty output, which is fine. That's just because nothing exists. So now we'll come through and say always output data to make sure that we've got an output that will trigger the next step in the process. Otherwise, as you can see here, it says nothing, so no item, so it won't do the rest of the process. So we'll just come through and re-execute this step. So there we go, we've now got that one item. So now we can come through and do Google and then Drive, and we'll be able to record that file. So we'll do download a file, and because we've got the trigger ID from earlier on, we can do edit files ID, and then we're going to change this to expression and ID here. We're also going to change the properties, so this is going to be file conversion, and we want the Google Docs to be text instead. So now if we do execute step, that Google Docs we had earlier on is now a simple plain text document we can use in Superbase. We're now going to come through and do extract from file, and we want to do extract text from file. So now if I come through and execute this step here, we've got it in a nice format that we can use instead of that binary file from earlier on. We'll now come through and do Superbase, and we're going to do Superbase vector store. We're then looking for add documents to vector store in there, and we're going to be choosing the table that we had earlier on. Now we can come through and choose the embeddings, which is going to be OpenAI, to make sure that we can store all that information, and just the default data loader, which is going to pull all of that information across. So now before we give this a quick step, we're going to come into our default data loader and just make a quick change. To be able to get that file ID like we showed a bit earlier on, we need to add it into the metadata. So we'll add the property in here, we'll do file underscore ID, and then on the left hand side here, we'll pull across the ID. So now when we go through and execute this step, for each of the items it uploads, we're also going to add that file ID into the metadata. And that's so that when we go through and delete or make any changes, we've got that file ID nice and easily identifiable, so we've always got that latest information available for the agent to be able to record. So now that we've got this part done here, we've got all of the data that we can ingest. The next part is going to be setting up our ElevenLabs AI agent to be able to record this information as we need it. So to set this up, we'll come across to ElevenLabs, which as you can see here, lots and lots of different settings. They've also just released their music capability as well. So let me know if you're interested in that and we can do a video on it. The pricing side, you're going to be billed based on your usage. So as you can see here, depending on what you set up, depends on how many credits you're going to use. So that depends on if you want to use something like this for ElevenLabs, or you've got platforms like Retail AI or Vapi, which you can use instead of this. So as we can see here, lots of different ones, but if we log in, we're going to set up our agent. So we want to come across to where we've got conversational AI instead of creative platform. We want to come down to our AI agents. We're then going to do a new agent. We're going to come through and choose a business agent, and I'm just going to do a real estate one for this demo. We're then going to come through and say we want maybe an answering service, and we're going to give it a agent name in here, so we can do YT demo, and you can add any website in there if you want to. We're going to say that the main goal is to answer any of the questions that the user has and create the agent in here. Once you've set that up, as you can see here, we're all connected and ready to go. We're going to choose the main language is English or whatever your specific region is. They got lots of different ones. Make sure to check out my other video, which covers a bit more in detail around the settings in here. We're going to be keeping it nice and concise for this one, just on the key parts. We're going to be updating our system prompt in here. So saying maybe if you've got a name for it, but the key part here is that it's a professional, efficient virtual assistant. We've added some other information in here, but the part you really need to keep an eye on is this goal here. So if I just walk through the goal, we've said that it needs to provide greeting and introduction, answer the call promptly, professionally, again, trying to give it a human experience where possible. For the live question answering, this is going to be key, where we're going to need to make some updates. We're going to need to change this tool name here to the specific tool name that you generate in a second. I've called it ElevenLabs RAG just for the way that we're going to name it in a second. We'll copy this, and then we're going to come through and make some changes. A bit further down, you can choose the different models. So again, intelligence versus flash. So choose whether you want something nice and fast, maybe with some more intelligence, or if you're optimizing for cost, you can do that as well. The temperature, so we can change how varying in that response is going to be. So if it's closer to the one value here, it's going to be more creative, i.e. not follow the script word for word. If we come down to deterministic, i.e. closer to 0, that means it's going to follow the script you gave it, the FAQ responses, a lot more word by word. If you want to provide it with some static data as well, we can add our agent knowledge base in here, which maybe if you've got a URL, you can add that in here for the latest website offerings, especially in like a real estate use case. Or you can add a file, but again, it's static. It's not going to automatically update like the version we're doing today. The key part we're going to come down and change is this tools section here. So we'll come down to tool and add a tool in here. We're going to say add a webhook tool and come across to the right hand side. Now we're going to need to make sure that it's exactly the same name as what we had earlier on in our prompt. So if you change it here, make sure to also update it in the prompt. We're going to give it a description, so it will say respond to customer questions with the latest information. We're going to change the method to be post, and we're going to need to add a URL in here in a second. We're going to come a bit further down and we're going to change the body parameters. Now you can add as much or as little as you want in here for the different body parameters. So for example, if you wanted to capture their email address, booking an appointment, anything like that, which we're going to cover in a future video, each one would need to have unique body parameters. So for example, here we can say questions from the user, questions from the caller. We'll be able to say question. We'll be able to say the LLM prompt, and we're going to say question that the user has. We'll be able to add any more if we wanted in there as well, but for now, we're just going to add the tool. And to do that, we need to come back and get that URL. So what we're going to be building here, well, the webhook response that we've got on the left-hand side, this is going to be triggered through our ElevenLabs agent. And then what we're going to be doing through here is we're going to have our AI agent prompt, which is sole purpose is going to be to go through and analyze the data that we've got in our database and provide that response back to the webhook request. Our vector data store is going to be that Superbase one we generated a bit earlier. So this is going to have all of the different items that we've got in our documents. It's going to pre-filter it down. And then we're going to use our re-ranker, which, for example, it's going to help us come up with the top 3 responses that would be most suitable for that response to go back in the webhook here, which is going to go back to our ElevenLabs agent, so that we can actually provide that latest response back to the customer. We'll come back across to our n8n environment, right-click, and do webhook. This is going to enable us to get those responses to send back. We're going to change the method to be post because we're sending information back to our ElevenLabs account. And we're also going to need to change it. So instead of immediately, is using response webhook node. So we'll come out of there and do save. We'll just capture this test URL here. If you want it to run continuously in the background, you need the production URL here and to turn on the environment, and then it will automatically run in the background. We'll copy this test URL, come back across to our agent, and then just paste it in here. Now we can do add tool, and as we can see here, it's all set up under custom tools, and the name that we have matches the name in here for the tool it's going to be calling. We'll be able to do save. Again, there's lots of other features in here that you can change from the voice, the tonality, the style, lots and lots, but that's not what we're focusing on today. We're going to come back across to our environment. We're going to do a right click. We'll do Webhook and responds to Webhook. Now we're going to be able to do this as the text or first incoming item a little bit later on. I'm going to leave that to the right-hand side there for now, just for that response. Next, we're going to come through and set up our AI agent in here, and we're going to go through and define below. We're then also going to add in a system message, which is going to be our prompt in here. So if I open this up, we're going to get rid of this and then paste our prompt in here, which you'll also find in the resources. Again, we're really iterating to the AI agent that it needs to provide that relevant information and provide it back to the user in a nice and concise way. We're also going to need to add our user prompt. So to do that, what I'm going to do is add a basic AI module in here. So we'll do Gemini in this use case, and we're using that Flash module. You can also go through and use Grok or any of the other different ones if you wanted to. So again, if you've got that cost area that you want to focus on, maybe something like OpenAI using 4.1 mini would be a bit better for you. We're going to come through and just give it a test. So we'll come in here and do hold. We'll come out and do save. So what we'll do is just connect this up at the end here, and then we'll go through and test it out. So we'll do test, we'll come across, and we'll give it a call.
Hi, thanks for calling. How can I help you with your real estate questions today?
Hi there, I want to know how many offices does your company have around the world?
I'd be happy to help you with that information. Let me check our database for details about our company.
So as we can see there, we were able to capture that request in the background. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see all of the data that's come across from ElevenLabs, and we're going to be able to see at the bottom here, we've got that question that's been captured. So we can do user and then question, and then pull across that body there. So it's going to add it at the end. Now it's still not got access to the memory and the data that we've stored in Superbase at the moment. And to do that, we're going to come through and do Superbase vector store. Make sure that we've got our account connection. We'll need to add a description in here so we can say all of the information about my company. We'll then add the table in here. So remembering that documents here matches documents in here, which is going to be where we store all of that information. We'll come back across. We're going to come down to here. We want to include metadata, and we want to re-rank the results. For the embeddings, I'm going to use OpenAI, which we're going to add over here. And the re-ranker, we're going to be using Cohere, which is a great feature. But what is re-ranking? Well, if we come down to the bottom here, we'll be able to walk through how it works. So what the current flow looks like is we have that request that's coming in from the user on ElevenLabs through the Twilio account. We're sending the information across to our n8n account. We're using Supabase to store all of the different documents, as you can see here, that may be related to our company, whether it's specific house listings, is specific information to do with the company, FAQs, anything like that. When that request is coming through from the user, it needs to go through and find all of that relevant information. Now, without re-ranking, what it's going to do is, for example, here, it's going to take a section of the document it's identified as partially usable. So as you can see here in green, maybe we've got 1, 2, and 3 that really answer the question that that user has. But what we want is that best optimal response to go back to the customer. So that's where we use re-ranking. What we're going to be doing is actually coming through and then setting this up So the Superbase, when it knows this information, is going to do an extra step here. We'll just come through and we're going to say extra and then step. So now what it's doing is it's still analyzing all of this information, but it's going to come through to our re-ranker with Cohere, and it's going to put those responses at the top. So we only need to respond with these 3 most suitable responses back to the customer. This is a really simplified version, but what it means is we're going from lots of documents to maybe the top 10 most documents, and then across to the top 3 best responses to give that customer. So then what we can do is come across to the end here, come around, get all of this information, and then put it as our webhook response, which will then go back to ElevenLabs with the best suitable information. So that's how we can get the best responses for customer queries through re-ranking and Supabase, so that we can provide that response as quickly as possible. If we come back across here, now we can go through and give this a test. So for example here, it's captured the question around how many offices. We can go through and we can do execute step. And now it should come through and check our database for that best response possible. And from memory, we had around 90 different offices. Yep, there we go. So if we come back here, we should see that we've got 90 offices around the world, so we can provide that response back. If we come into the response webhook, we can also choose it to have the text response, and we'll just pull across the output so it will provide that text response back to the customer. Now, to give this a quick test with our updated version, we need to come back across to where we've got our phone numbers. We're going to need to make sure that we import a phone number. I show you exactly how to do this in the other video. You just need to add your account SSID and your authentication token. To be able to capture the incoming call, you need to make sure, first of all, that once you've imported your phone number, it's tied to that specific agent, like you can see here. Once you've set that up, to get that phone number with the incoming call, you then want to come down to manage and active numbers. You'll have all of the different phone numbers here that you've purchased, but if you click into the one that you've got active and come across to configure, you need to make sure that it's using the webhook service here instead of the others. Also make sure that you've got this URL showing up, which if you've integrated it into ElevenLabs, it should show up nice and easily. And this is how we're going to be able to get those inbound phone calls coming into our ElevenLabs agent. So now if we come back across, what we should be able to see is with our agent connected, what we should see is at the top here is we've now got that number associated with the agent, so it's all set up and ready to go. Now that you've got all of that set up in Twilio, well as ElevenLabs, you'll be able to have the incoming call. So now we're going to come back across and give it a test. If you have any issues with maybe that phone call not coming through, make sure to add some credits to your Twilio account. If you add something like $20, it will go a long way because it's very cheap and cost effective to run. So we'll do execute workflow, and then we should be able to call our agent.
Hi, thanks for calling. How can I help you with your real estate questions today?
Hi there, what are the values of the company?
I'd be happy to share our company values with you. Let me look that up for you right away. The company is built on several core values that guide everything we do. We pride ourselves on our expertise in the real estate market and maintaining consistently high standards while delivering exceptional service to all our clients. We foster a positive culture based on transparency and support, with open communication at all.
So as you can see there, it took a little bit longer with the OpenAI module. So we'll reconnect our Google one in there just to hopefully speed up that response coming back. And because we gave it a bit more creativity, it didn't follow it word for word for the exact values we did. So there you go. As you can see, able to set up an AI agent that's got access to your data nice and easily with Supabase, and can give you the opportunity for white labeling it through platforms like lovable.dev because we've got that Superbase connector. Stay tuned for more around AI automation and have a great day.